The Memory of Love, Chapter 48. A handful of the men are playing football. Not enough to make a five-a-side team, but enough for a kickabout. The pitch is a scraggy patch of tough grass and dirt. Discarded chains serve as goal markers. The men play barefoot, shirtless and with intent. Attila had given permission for the football games on the Proviso. Adrian came in to supervise them. Ileana and Attila were too busy, and none of the nurses were considered sufficiently qualified to be left in charge of the unshackled men. Nobody, though, doubted the benefit of exercise to the men. Now, Adrian watches the game, alert to any change in mood. So far, so good. Their concentration is upon the ball. On the opposite path, he sees Attila followed by Salia. The psychiatrist stops and watches the game, nods at Adrian, who nods back. On the pitch, the men play on. After the game, Adrian has a session scheduled with Adekali. The young man arrives looking exhausted and underweight and does not sit down until Adrian invites him to do so. For a few moments, Adrian watches Adekali's left knee jerking up and down. From time to time, his neck, head, and shoulders converge in a massive shudder. He has not looked directly at Adrian once since entering the room. At first, Adrian had been troubled by the consistent failure of most of the men to make eye contact. It was Ileana who told him that to look an elder in the eye is regarded as an act of defiance. Still, Adekali's gaze, darting about the floor as though in pursuit of an erratically moving insect, is anything but normal. Do you remember in class we talked about having a special place, somewhere you can go when you are finding things getting on top of you? Adekali nods. Have you been going there? There have been a number of disturbances involving Adekali recently, one in the canteen just yesterday. His progress in the group sessions, initially so promising, has taken a turn for the worse. Adekali nods and then shakes his head. What does that mean, yes or no? Speak to me. I cannot always remember what you told me. Well, shall we practice it now? Whenever you have a frightening memory, something that upsets you, you can make yourself feel better. What about the relaxation technique, the breathing? Though the men come willingly enough to the sessions, hardest of all is to get them to carry out the exercises on their own. The question is one of trust. The men are beginning to have confidence in Adrian, but his methods are still beyond them. They are uninitiated in the ideas of psychotherapy, and to find the required peace and stillness on the wards can't be easy. Adekali shakes his head. All these things will help you to feel less stressed and less frightened. They will help you cope. Shall we try it here together? Adekali nods. Adrian stands and crosses to the window, where he looks out at the ruffled surface of the sea. A fishing canoe is returning to shore, dripping in and out of sight. Adekali's knee has stopped jerking. Adrian says, now I want you to take a deep breath. Hold it. Exhale. One by one, he takes Adekali through the exercises, has him clench and release his fists, and then his forearms, his shoulders, roll his head around, his neck, tense and relax, the muscles of his face, where most of Adekali's tics occur. Finally, his chest, legs, and feet. Adekali is entirely biddable, as are all the men. Adrian never fails to find it remarkable, even accounting for the sedative effect of the drugs. How do you feel? Yes, sir, I feel better. Adrian takes a breath. He says, okay, close your eyes. Now, think about your special place. You can tell me about it if you want. The place I choose is a tree outside my village where I grew up. Is it somewhere you used to go as a child? Yes. If my mother beat me, sometimes I sat underneath it. Other times I climbed up. Okay, I want you to sit there and remember how it felt. What could you see from up high? What could you hear? Adrian is silent for a minute, watching Adekali. Then he says, What I want you to do now is to talk about one of those times when you remember something from the past, something bad. Those times you remember something from the past, something bad. You are going to describe it to me and we are going to talk about it. And then I'm going to teach you something that will help you stop these memories from coming at unexpected times and making you upset. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Adrian knows now from their previous sessions from whence Adekali's horror of fire derives. So, to his dread of the smell of roasting meat, Adekali had belonged to the rebel sensitization unit. The unit's task was to enter a town marked for invasion ahead of the fighting contingent of the rebel army, and by their method to ensure the villagers' future capitulation. As a strategy, it worked. It saved on casualties. Among the rebels' forces, that is, it saved on ammunition. The unit's planning was meticulous, the process merciless, the outcome effective. Adekali's job, his particular job, was to burn families alive in their houses. Shall we begin? Would you like to describe one of those moments to me? Adekali is silent. Words seem to fail him. This happens often, without Adrian's prompting. The men seem incapable of acting. Perhaps this is how it worked in the battlefield. Adekali's spirit broken in much the same way as he set about breaking villagers' wills. Now, without the gang, the drugs, and the drink, the spur of violence, out beyond the triumph of survival, the desolation steals up and surrounds them. Adekali begins to rub his forehead with the palm of his hand. Adrian says, "Some time ago, I was called to the war. You were very upset. Do you remember why?" Adekali nods. "What happened?" Another silence, shorter this time. When Adekali begins to speak, his words come in between rapid, shallow breaths. "They came with meat." "Who did?" "Them that are on my ward." "And why did that upset you?" "It made me feel sick to my stomach." "Go on. What else did you feel?" "I felt fearful." He is quiet. His eyes are open now, staring at the floor. "I heard noises in my ears. I saw visions." "What were those visions?" "Tell me exactly what you saw from the beginning." "I saw thatch burning, the thatch of a house. The smoke is in my nose and my mouth. I hear people shouting and screaming. There is a lot of noises, singing. The people gathered around to watch. We make them come to see what we are doing and to chant and sing. It was my job, that is what I remember. A welcome song. Seneo, I feel drumming in my ears. We pass around palm wine. I'm the conductor. I have a baton. I conduct them. A woman refuses to sing. She makes me very angry. She has a baby on her back. I tell myself, it is time to teach this woman a lesson. What will other people think of me if she does not sing? His leg has begun to jerk again. Bubbles of sweat pop out on his forehead. Adrian is aware of a rank odor rising in the room. Keep going. I need to teach this woman a lesson for refusing to sing. I take her baby and I throw it on the roof. The woman sings then. She sings. I make her sing. He is babbling now, rocking back and forth in his chair. But now she is coming after me. She is in my dreams. She appears even when I'm awake. What does it mean to you to see her? Her spirit sees me and is coming after me for causing the death of her child. Adrian leans forward and touches Adekali on the shoulder. Okay, stop there. Adekali blinks. Adrian comes to sit down opposite him. Would you like a glass of water? Adrian fills a glass from the carafe and the table in front of him and pushes it across the table. Adekali drinks noisily. What you are experiencing, said Adrian, are called flashbacks. A flashback is a memory of a bad thing that has happened. But sometimes these memories are so strong, it makes it feel as though the thing is happening all over again, as though you are back in the same place. Sometimes you forget where you really am. The day in the world, for example, when I came to help you, at first you did not recognize me. You had forgotten where you really were. Could I be right? Adekali notes. He is gripping the glass, resting it on his knee. You can put the glass on the table now. What I want to do is to teach you some ways of coping with these flashbacks when they come, okay? We are going to replay parts of that memory until you get used to it and it stops frightening you so much. You can learn to control it just as though we had taped it and were playing it on a video player and you had charge of the remote. Adekali is looking at him with what appears to be intense concentration, biting his bottom lip. You know what a video recorder is, don't you? Adekali nods slowly once. Thank goodness for that. And so you know how to use one. Adekali shakes his head. After Adekali is gone, Adrian, halfway through writing up his notes of the session, puts down his pen, stands up and goes to the window. The fishing canoe is gone. A freight liner is moving almost impeccably across the horizon. If only it was so easy to rewind the past, he thinks, to where might he return? How far back would he go? What, if anything, would he change? For nearly 6 months now, Adrian has been listening to Elias Cole's story. Cole has been using him as a confessor. The question is why? In Adrian's experience, it isn't unknown for a patient endeavoring to conceal an uncomfortable truth from themselves as much as anyone else to confess to something lesser. The therapist is handed the role of judge and juror if he accepts the version of events presented. The patient sees himself as absolved. So what is Elias Cole's real story? Inside his room, Elias Cole is being given a bath. He lies naked to the waist, while Babagale holds up an arm, sponging the underarms with water from a large basin on the side table. The older man's thinness is pitiful. The shadow of his rib visible either side of the sternum. The slack skin falls away from the bone. A cloth slung over a heap of sticks. Stay, stay, as Adrian prepares to withdraw. Babagale is finished here anyway. He indicates to Adrian to sit, and to Babagale, go away now, come back later. Babagale dries the old man off, pulls the bedclothes up over his chest, and folds them over neatly. Unhurriedly, he gathers up the basin, soap, and towels and leaves the room. How are you? Says Adrian. No sign of oxygen concentrator today. Mrs. Mara must have had it repossessed. As you see, I have been unwell, but now I'm a little improved, though my trajectory remains in the same general direction. He smiles thinly. How are you? I'm well, thank you. You look a little different somehow. Let me look at you. Cole cocks his head and regards Adrian. You are looking rather solemn, if you don't mind my saying so. I hope everything is all right. It is, says Adrian, summoning a smile. He draws his chair closer to the bed, decides to get straight to the point. Have you heard of the prisoner's dilemma? The prisoner's dilemma? Yes, I'm loosely familiar with the theory, though it has been some time now. What do you understand from it? 2 men are being held in jail for the same offense. The police don't have enough evidence to make a charge, so instead they make a deal with each man to inform on the other. It is the same deal, the broad result of which is that if each stays silent, then each is convicted of a lesser charge. If one gives information about the other, he will get off, but the other man will suffer an even greater penalty. That's right, says Adrian. And if they both confess, they will get a sentence longer than if they remain silent, but shorter than if one has been informed on by the other. You are talking about me and Julius. Game theory. That particular form of the game was devised by a mathematician in 1950 or thereabouts. It's been in play ever since. The old man inhales and then exhales slowly. I see. It's a non-zero sum game, as opposed to a zero-sum game. It allows for the possibility of cooperation. There's a move that benefits both players. He watches Elias Cole's face carefully. Yes, as I said, I'm familiar with the theory. I'm not sure how it relates to me and Julius, except that we were quite literally prisoners. The point you are missing, of course, is that I could not confess to anything as I was not involved in anything. So that option was not open to me. I followed the only recourse there was. Of course, says Adrian. I understand that perfectly. Let's stick with the game for the time being. You see, it really concerns questions of self-interest and betrayal. If prisoner A decides to act in his own self-interest, he wins, but only if the other prisoner does not do the same thing. Precisely, if the other prisoner does, then they both lose, unless of course prisoner A knows prisoner B is unlikely to betray him. It puts prisoner A in a strong position. It's really quite fascinating. It isn't just mathematicians and philosophers who are interested in the outcomes. Economists too. Rival companies, manufacturing, I don't know, soft drinks, dog food, they have to decide whether it's better to price fix or compete. Elias called grants. His gaze flicks over Adrian and settles on the end of the bed. Adrian stands up and moves into his island. There are variants of the game. In the most popular, the two people play the game repeatedly. That way, they can learn each other's responses, you see. Indeed, I do, though I'm still not at all sure where you are headed with all of this. I did nothing wrong except to give Johnson what he asked for, which was a small amount of information. I did not lie or manufacture evidence. Johnson was a police officer, though you knew what kind of man he was. He was a police officer, for heaven's sake. As I was saying, in this variant of the game, the same people play each other any number of times. They get to know how the other one is likely to respond, but also they get the opportunity to punish each other for past betrayals. So suddenly the game shifts quite dramatically. Cole does not respond. He is watching Adrian. Adrian looks directly into the void of his stare. So let's say that now we are talking about you and Julius. Could it be you were punishing him for a betrayal one already committed? And what betrayal is that? The one you told me about the last time we spoke, for not including you in what was going on. Elias Cole gives a short, harsh and derisive laugh. What? For not involving me in producing some rag of an underground newspaper? You seemed upset enough about it last time. I was angry with him precisely for getting me involved, for using my room and my typewriter, for letting me be arrested. Adrian is quiet for a moment, for not trusting you enough to tell you what was really going on. You thought you were closer to him than you really were, but it turned out not to be true. Yansane, Kekura, they were Julius's real trusted friends, and not you. He's heckling the old man now. He ought perhaps to stop, but he doesn't want to. He throws in one final sentence. So you gave Johnson the notebooks? Yes, I gave Johnson my notebooks, but not for the reason you suggest, because Johnson had harassed and humiliated me. Did you feel better when you had done it? Of course not. Half an hour later, Adrian walks down the corridor towards his apartment, thinking about Adekali and Elias Cole. Two very different conversations. He hardly dares admit it to himself, but he'd rather enjoyed sparring with Elias Cole. The old man maintained that giving Johnson his notebooks did not amount to an act of betrayal, and certainly he could tell himself that he might even partly believe it. Johnson, after all, represented the law, the arm of authority, but Cole was holding back. He had cooperated with Johnson, but something that occurred around that time had created a bond which had lasted years after the event. Of this, Adrian felt reasonably certain. As for the prisoner's dilemma, the game theory had once comprised a seminar when Adrian was at university. In the present circumstances, as an analogy, it is remarkably apt, but what is most interesting about it is that, although at first glance, self-interest and betrayal seem to be the winning choice, what happens when the game is played repeatedly among large numbers of people, or even by computers, is that altruism becomes the sensible recourse. Adrian recalls the lecture theater, the strip lighting, and 1960s concrete floor. His professor, what was the guy's name? Quinnell. proving Quinel had told them, rocking forwards on the lantern, that in any society, good moral thinking and self-interest are one and the same. There comes a time when the knowing makes itself known. When they make love, he finds he cannot bury himself deeply enough inside her. He pushes his face into her neck and tastes skin, salt, and sweat. A leg is pressed against his neck, his cheek. Hands grip his arms. His chin fits in the dip above her collarbone. He reaches up and finds her calf, her ankle. Her hand slides between their two bodies and gathers his balls. He who has ceased to breathe exhales his soul. Afterwards, she plays with parts of him, licks a nipple, curls her hair around a forefinger, inspects an insect bite, and gives it an experimental squeeze. Grooming him, he teases her. Once she even scratched the back of his knee. Later, when he thought about it, he shook his head and swore to himself. He had said nothing of the itch he felt there. In these idle moments to him, anything but mundane, the physical separation between them ceases to exist. And this is where he is when knowing makes itself known. He is lying on his front across her bed, trapped by her legs cast across the back of his thighs. Outside, the nighttime rain has started, weighted drops tumbling out of the sky, subduing all other sounds. When she raises to fetch a glass of water, he feels a moment of loss, and he knows he never wants to be without her again. And he says so, but she, standing with her back to him, fails to hear above the rain, and the sound is pouring water, and so gives no answer. She turns around. What's the matter? He sees his mistake, struggles out of the terror the thought of rejection brought with it, and repeats his word. I want you to come with me when I leave. She sits and places her hand on his back. She is silent, and he hates it. Starts to slide towards the fear once more. I don't want that, she says. He drops his gaze. This is my home. This is where I want to live. I want to raise our children in this place. The last three words pronounced emphatically. He is overtaken by relief, aware of his breathing, of the wild thumping of his heart. He makes an effort to bring both under control. He pulls her to him. For now, he does not want to think about the rest. Nothing is simple, except this one thing, this feeling he has for her. Children, she said, our children. He has already forgotten the rest. Outside, the rain crashes down, dulling the senses. Next comes the thunder. Adrian closes his mind to everything but her touch. For now, everything else can wait.